The summits, the economy, the origins of the pandemic, plenty to talk about with tonight's panel. Let's bring in our Bream team, Fox News contributors, Leslie Marshall and Jason Chaffetz. Welcome back to both of you.
Hi, Shannon. Good to see you.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Vox.com is warning that President Biden has a lot to live up to in having this meeting with President Putin. Says Biden has backed himself into a corner. He's headed to Geneva in hopes of convincing Putin to change his ways. But if he fails to persuade the Russian, as analysts expect, Wednesday's summit could simply set up a worse future between the U.S. and Russia. Jason, what are you looking for?
I think that is the deep concern. I mean, even before this, suddenly Joe Biden gives up on the pipeline, gave Russia exactly what he wanted. I don't know what cards Joe Biden think he has to play, but he certainly hasn't been tough on Russia as he claimed he would be. And what is he going to do? There is literally nothing that has been foreshadowed or laid with the diplomats in order to actually go and accomplish. But giving up the pipeline before he even met with Putin was just a bad mood by the president.
So, Leslie, does he risk a net positive or net negative by having this face-to-face meeting tomorrow with all the expectations in the world watching?
I actually think that Joe Biden has a more positive outlook from the world because he has a lot of experience. He's been a politician for a very long time. He's met with foreign leaders numerous times, over 100 times throughout his career. And when he sits down with Putin, and first I want to point out the pipeline was more about Germany, who is a key ally to us, than it was Russia. But I think that he can be very tough, and that's one of the reasons that he doesn't want to stand next to Putin on a stage when he gives the press conference after their meeting, because you know how those press conferences go. It reminds me of the movie Love Actually, right? Where you have Hugh Grant and then you have Billy Bob Thornton, one playing the UK, one playing the US. And, you know, usually it's just very diplomatic. And, you know, Hugh Grant's character as the British Prime Minister steps out of line and basically tells the US, you know what, we're not going to take it from you anymore. And that's a movie. That's not reality. But you can say that more so, and you can be more forceful if you're not standing next to that person you have to practice that diplomacy with when the mics are on.
They've decided not to have a press conference together, but we will hear from President Biden and get his readout from that. Okay, Kevin Cork worked through all of the prices that have gone up on food and eggs and bacon and all of the great stuff out there, but gas and very real things that for every family out there and everybody watching impact their real lives. And there are a number of people warning, including people from the Obama-Biden administration, people like Larry Summers, Jamie Dimon over at JP Morgan, that are saying we have some real concerns about potential long-term runaway inflation. So it's coming from across the ideological spectrum. In the meantime, the Wall Street Journal is talking about the fact that you can't get people to go back to work against that economic backdrop. They say the pay is generous, the work non-existence. This opinion piece by a couple of economists who say the latest Labor Department statistics show an all-time record 9.3 million unfilled jobs, even though more than 9 million Americans remain unemployed. Alarm bells should be ringing in Washington. Jason, do you think they are?
I don't think they are, because these are Democratic policies put in place by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that are causing this. They got rid of our ability to be self-sufficient on the energy front, gave up doing it on public lands, even though the court is now forcing that back. They got rid of the Keystone Pipeline. They provided economic incentives to not go to work. These are all things that Democrats put in place that are causing these prices to go high. It didn't just instantaneously happen. It happened because Joe Biden became the president and they started acting like Democrats. And that's what we're getting is rapid spending. We're going to spend it $6 trillion, compared to 10 years ago, a 50% increase in spending by the federal government, 25% of our gross domestic product. It's not sustainable.
And Leslie, you heard Kevin's reporting as well, citing a poll that more Americans, vastly more, believe that this is now President Biden's fault, the inflation situation, the economy where it is now, than it is President Trump or someone else's. So he's fresh on the start of his presidency. It looks like the honeymoon might be wrapping up. What does he do with those numbers?
Well, I don't think the honeymoon wraps up at all, because it depends if they're going to believe my buddy Jason over there across the aisle on the right when I'm here on the left. But I'm going to believe top economists who say that this inflation is transitory. This is short term. This is not a long term worry. This is a short term phenomena. One. Two, a stimulus. Stimulus was originally signed by Donald Trump, and our prices have been increasing for 12 months. Joe Biden's not been president for 12 months. And let's look at what we didn't hear from my buddy Kevin. What we didn't hear is areas of the economy that have not increased, and we're not seeing inflation. Healthcare, education, housing prices. If you're a seller, it's helpful to you. If you're a buyer, it isn't. Renters are paying less now. We're seeing those prices go down. So some of the big ticket items, those are going down. I do not think this is going to be long term. And quite frankly, I don't blame Donald Trump for this. I don't blame Joe Biden for this. I blame the pandemic for this. And that's what most economists blame as well. And the reason people aren't going back to work, by the way, is fear of COVID and the pandemic, more so than unemployment and those stimulus checks.
We're going to debate that a little bit later because we've got a very interesting case in night court suing over those extra $300 a week benefits. So we'll take on the legal challenge with that as well. All right, Leslie and Jason, thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you, Shannon.